Listen close, because I'm about to tell you the truth most people don't see. The real signs a man carries in his energy, his rhythm, his heart, and his history. The kind of signs that show he's been through love, desire, and heartbreak and came out wiser, stronger, and unshakable. If you want to know what experience really looks like, not just talk, not just charm, but real life lessons etched into a man, stay right here, because I'm about to break it down. You ever meet a man and the first thing you notice isn't what he says, but how he moves? That's the power of confidence, the kind that doesn't scream or beg for attention, the kind that just exists, commanding space without asking permission. You can feel it in the air around him, the way his shoulders sit, the way his eyes scan the room like he's reading the story of everyone in it. That's experience talking. Confidence like that ain't born from books or Instagram quotes. It comes from living, from falling, from learning every lesson that comes when you deal with people, women, rejection, love, and lust. It's the kind of presence that either pulls you in or warns you to be cautious. And you feel it deep in your chest before you even hear a word. You see, a man who's been with many women has had to learn his value, not just to be noticed, not just to be admired, but to understand himself, his purpose, his boundaries. That's the difference between arrogance and authenticity. Arrogance screams, "Look at me." Confidence whispers, "I am here and I know who I am." You can't fake that energy. Women, life, the streets, they teach it over time. And it's not just about attraction. It's about how he navigates the room, how he responds to attention, how he carries himself when no one is looking. The confidence of experience isn't loud. It's steady. It's aware. It's magnetic. Think about a man you've seen walk into a party, a room, a street corner, and you felt that immediately. The air changes. People notice, not because he's showing off, but because he moves differently. That's earned ease. He's been through experiences that taught him how to handle rejection without losing himself, how to hold attention without manipulating, how to stand firm when chaos surrounds him. That's the kind of confidence only experience can teach. It's a rhythm. It's balance. It's a way of being that comes from knowing yourself, understanding desire, and walking the line between respect and temptation. There's a story about a man I knew growing up, a brother who carried himself like the world had tried to break him, but couldn't. He'd been with women, sure, but not just to conquer. He learned lessons from every encounter, every heartbreak, every moment when he thought he had control, but really had to learn patience, empathy, and self-respect. When he walked into a room, people felt it. Women felt it. It wasn't charm. It was presence. It was energy. It was history folded into his posture, his gaze, the calm that came from surviving life's storms. That's what experience does to a man. Confidence like that also teaches awareness. He notices subtleties, how someone shifts in their chair, how they speak when they think no one's listening, the energy they carry before they even open their mouth. That awareness is born from interaction, from understanding dynamics with many people, many women. It's not about conquest, it's about learning patterns, seeing the world, and moving through it without fear, without neediness, without pretense. That's magnetic energy. That's the kind of confidence that can inspire, protect, and sometimes, if misused, manipulate. But real confidence is grounded. It's not about proving yourself to others. It's about knowing your worth without seeking validation. A man who slept with many women knows what it means to be wanted, but he also knows the weight of desire. He's seen fleeting attraction, long nights of temporary connection, and he's learned the difference between being chased and being understood. That's why he moves the way he does. Deliberate, calm, self-assured. He doesn't rush moments. He doesn't overcompensate. He just exists, and the world bends slightly to meet him. The lesson here is clear. Confidence is a story told through movement, through presence, through self-acknowledge. It's not something you can teach in school or buy in a bottle. It's earned, etched into the bones, and visible to anyone who knows how to watch. A man who's walked the path, who's loved and lost, who's learned to carry himself without shame, without desperation, without pretense, he's a force. And that's the first sign, the signature energy of a man who's lived, loved, and learned from many women. You ever meet a man and he's talking to you and suddenly it feels like the world shrinks, like the noise, the chaos, the weight of everything else disappears and it's just you and him in that moment? That's the power of charm and conversation. The kind that's effortless but intentional, smooth but precise, experienced but still alive. This ain't about flattery or rehearsed lines. Real charm comes from knowing people, knowing women, knowing how attention and emotion work, and using it to create a space where someone feels seen. That's experience. That's history. That's a signature of a man who's been with many women. See, charm isn't just about words. It's in the tone, the timing, the way he leans in when he speaks and leans back when he listens. He makes you feel like the only person in the room, even if he's had this conversation 100 times before, and you feel it in your chest. Warmth, curiosity, maybe a little tension, but you also sense there's control behind it. He knows what he's doing, but he doesn't need to prove it. That's why experience shows. That's why charm like this can be both comforting and electrifying at the same time. I remember seeing a man once, older than me, talking to a woman at a party. The way he asked questions wasn't shallow, wasn't small talk. He asked things that made her pause, think, smile. He remembered details from things she mentioned hours ago. That attentiveness wasn't accidental. That was the work of someone who'd been paying attention for years, learning what makes a person feel connected, what words ignite trust, and what energy draws people in without force. That's charming conversation. The art of connection mask is casual talk. Experience teaches a man how to calibrate charm. He knows when to joke, when to listen, when to compliment, when to push a little, all without ever appearing desperate or overbearing. He's had enough encounters to understand patterns, how interest rises and falls, how vulnerability is revealed slowly, how curiosity keeps a person engaged. That knowledge turns words into tools, but it's subtle. You might feel it before you see it. You might feel drawn without understanding why. That's power disguised as warmth. But here's the thing. Charm isn't always innocent. A man who's had many women may use it to navigate desire, attraction, and attention. He knows how to make someone feel special without committing to permanence. That's why reading him requires awareness. Not every compliment is genuine. Not every question is curiosity. Sometimes it's practice and sometimes it's intention. The difference is in the details, the way he listens when no one else is talking, the consistency between his words and actions, the balance of empathy and self-interest. Yet charm can be beautiful when wielded with respect. It can heal wounds, inspire confidence, and bring people closer in a way that feels natural and real. Men who've learned this through experience know how to honor moments without overstepping. They've learned the art of patience, the rhythm of attention, and the subtle power of presence. That's why women notice. That's why energy shifts when he speaks. That's why charm is more than words. It's a vibration, a frequency, an awareness that resonates beyond conversation. The lesson here is clear. A man's charm in conversation tells you about his experience, his awareness, and the way he's navigated human connection. It's visible in his attentiveness, his timing, his tone, and his ability to make someone feel seen. It's magnetic, sometimes intoxicating, but it's also a map of his history, a signal of his past, and a hint of what he values. Pay attention to it, because charm isn't taught in books. It's earned, learned, and perfected through the art of living, loving, and moving through life with others. You ever talk to a man and feel like he's carrying stories behind his eyes? Like every word he says, every pause, every smile is layered with experiences you can't see at first glance? That's what I mean when I say a man's history is hinted at. He doesn't wear it like a badge. He doesn't announce it to the world, but if you pay attention, you'll catch glimpses. Little windows into his past, shadows of the paths he's walked, the women he's loved, the heartbreaks he's survived. A man who slept with many women carries those experiences quietly. They shape him, inform him, teach him, and yes, sometimes they haunt him. See, history in a man isn't always about conquest or ego. It's often about learning. Learning about connection, about desire, about respect, and sometimes about loss. The ones who've been with many women know how to navigate attention, affection, and temptation. They've been through moments of intensity, passion, intimacy, and sometimes betrayal. And those experiences leave marks, lessons hidden beneath calm gestures, subtle choices in the way he approaches relationships. You might hear it in a story he tells casually, a mention of a past lover, a laugh that carries both warmth and regret. That's history speaking softly, showing itself in moments without needing to be forced. I remember a brother from my neighborhood, quiet, reserved, but when he spoke, people leaned in. He didn't boast about the women he'd been with. He didn't need to. His words, the way he carried himself, the way he approached life, all hinted at a life fully lived. You can see it in the respect he gave others, the care he showed in relationships, and the cautious way he loved. That's the power of hinted history. It teaches you patience, awareness, and respect. It shows you that experience doesn't always need to be loud. It can be subtle, yet deeply impactful. A man who's had many women learns discretion. He knows what to share, when to share it, and who to share it with. That skill is born out of experience, out of knowing that revealing too much can hurt or complicate or mislead. He understands the boundaries between past and present. He knows that what once was shapes who he is, but it doesn't define what he can be. And that awareness, that wisdom shows itself in conversation, in decision making, and how he approaches intimacy. When history can be tricky, it can create illusions. Some women might see confidence, charm, and subtle depth and assume it's permanence. But past experience doesn't guarantee commitment. That's why paying attention matters. Look for consistency between his stories and his actions. Notice whether he honors his past lessons or whether he repeats patterns that cause pain. A man's history is a map, but reading it requires care, insight, and honesty. And there's beauty in it too. A man with hinted history can teach, guide, and deepen connections. He knows what it feels like to love and to lose. He understands emotions in a way that someone inexperienced may not. That knowledge allows him to connect with empathy, with patience, and with awareness. Women who notice these subtle signs often feel seen, understood, and valued, even if the man isn't laying everything bare. That's the power of hinted history. It's lived wisdom wrapped in quiet presence. So when you meet a man whose history is hinted at, don't rush to judgment. Don't assume it's arrogance or pride. Look closer. Listen to the pauses, the stories, the casual mentions. Feel the energy that carries the weight of experience without the need for exaggeration. That's the mark of a man who's lived, learned, and grown through connection, through passion, and through the women who have touched his life. It's subtle, it's real, and it's one of the deepest signs of the paths he's walked. You ever notice how some men move in relationships like they got a rhythm nobody else can hear? Like every gesture, every word, every touch is timed perfectly, like music flowing naturally instead of forced. That's the rhythm I'm talking about. The rhythm to attention. A man who slept with many women learns it without being taught. He knows when to lean in, when to pull back, when to give space, and when to hold close. It's a pattern developed over time, forged in moments of intimacy, desire, and even disappointment. It's subtle, but once you feel it, you can't ignore it. See, rhythm to attention is more than just knowing how to flirt or be seductive. It's understanding pacing, the pace of conversation, the pace of intimacy, the pace of trust. A man who's had experience knows that pushing too fast destroys connection, while moving too slow can create distance. He feels the energy of the room, the mood of the moment, and he adapts without hesitation. That's why some men can make every moment feel electric, like you're the only person alive, even if they've shared similar moments 100 times before. It's experience meeting instinct, creating a flow that's magnetic and deeply human. I remember a man I once knew, older than most of us in the neighborhood, who had this way of making women feel fully present. He didn't rush intimacy. He didn't force affection. He let it build naturally, like a song rising to its chorus. If a conversation needed a pause, he paused. If a laugh or touch fit the moment, he gave it. That rhythm taught patience, respect, and presence. Women noticed it. You could feel it in the energy, the comfort, the trust that unfolded without a single word needing explanation. That's the kind of rhythm only life experience can teach. A man who has slept with many women also learns the balance between attention and detachment. He knows when to give focus and when to step back. That balance isn't coldness, it's wisdom. He's learned that overgiving attention can create dependency, while undergiving can create distrust. He navigates this dance with precision, and if you watch closely, you'll notice how his energy ebbs and flows naturally, drawing people in, then allowing space, then pulling closer again. That's the rhythm of a man who knows the weight of desire and respect. But rhythm isn't just for attraction. It's a reflection of self-control and awareness. He knows his limits. He knows her limits. And he understands the power of timing. Experience has shown him that moments matter more than outcomes. That connection, tension, and intimacy need to breathe. It's not a race. It's a performance of patience, sensitivity, and alignment. A lesson learned through countless nights, conversations, and experiences where rushing destroyed more than it created. Rhythm also reveals authenticity. A man who moves naturally in attention doesn't need to fake charm or confidence. His energy aligns with his actions. He speaks when he should, listens when he should, and touches when it feels right. That kind of presence creates safety, desire, and trust, the rare combination that makes intimacy feel effortless. Women can sense it immediately. It's a vibration they can't explain, a subtle power that pulls them into the moment fully. So the rhythm to attention is one of the clearest signs a man has been with many women. It's not arrogance. It's not manipulation. It's refined experience, awareness, and understanding of human connection. It's the invisible music behind his presence, guiding interactions without forcing them. And when you meet a man with that rhythm, you feel it instantly. The calm, the confidence, the energy, and the undeniable flow that makes every moment feel alive, intentional, and unforgettable. Come and join me in the Crichton concert, facebook.com/matingmaidenship, and do not elope and make out. You ever meet a man and feel like there's a wall around him, not because he's cold, but because he's been through things that made him protect himself? That's the emotional guard I'm talking about. A man who slept with many women has seen desire, love, rejection, heartbreak, and fleeting passion. He's loved and lost, given too much, and learned the cost of vulnerability. That's why his heart moves cautiously now. Or not because he doesn't feel, but because he's learned the weight of attachment. Every word, every touch, every glance is measured, tested, and filtered through the lessons of experience. See, emotional guard doesn't mean absence of love. It means awareness. He knows what it feels like to pour himself into someone who wasn't ready to hold him, who wasn't ready to give in return. He's learned that unguarded love can leave you empty, broken, and doubting yourself. So he builds walls, not to trap people out, but to protect the part of him that's sacred, the part that's earned through years of navigating connection, intimacy, and heartbreak. And if you pay attention, you can see it in small ways. A hesitation before trust, a pause before vulnerability, a depth behind the surface charm. I remember a man I knew who carried this kind of energy. On the outside, he was confident, charming, magnetic. Women were drawn to him naturally. But when you got closer, you noticed layers. A careful way he let you in. A hesitation before he shared his story. A guarded tone when conversations touched the heart. That emotional guard wasn't cruelty. It wasn't manipulation. It was wisdom. It was survival. He'd learned that some wounds heal slowly, some trust has to be earned, and some hearts need protection. Emotional guard also teaches patience for himself and for others. A man who's lived, loved, and experienced many women understands timing, boundaries, and the importance of emotional alignment. He doesn't jump into intimacy without respect. He doesn't offer love carelessly. He knows the consequences of rushing the heart, of ignoring the subtle signals, of taking without giving equally in return. That awareness comes from experience. Nights of longing, mornings of regret, lessons etched into his soul. But here's the thing. A man with an emotional guard can still connect deeply. He can still love fully, but he does it consciously. His affection is deliberate, his attention meaningful, his desire tempered with respect. And when he trusts, when he lowers the walls, it's rare, powerful, and unforgettable. Women who recognize this know that the guard isn't rejection, it's proof of depth, understanding, and resilience. It's proof that he's survived, learned, and grown stronger because of his past. Emotional guard also reveals integrity. He's selective not because he's arrogant, but because he values himself and his energy. He won't waste time, and he won't let his heart be trifled with. He's aware of his patterns, aware of past mistakes, and he uses that awareness to navigate relationships more wisely. And that's why you can feel it when a man carries this kind of energy. It's in the way he listens, the way he acts, the way he balances vulnerability with caution. So emotional guard is one of the clearest signs a man has been with many women. It's not absence, it's protection. It's experience turned into awareness, lessons turned into resilience, and heartache turned into wisdom. It's the quiet energy that tells you he's lived, he's loved, and he's learned to navigate desire without losing himself. And when you encounter a man like that, you feel it immediately, the depth, the caution, the strength, and the rare power of a heart that's been through life but refuses to break. You ever meet a man who seems to just get it? Not just the surface, not just the easy stuff, but the quiet, unspoken things about women, their moods, their hesitations, the subtle signals they give when they want connection but are scared to ask for it. That's the knowledge I'm talking about. A man who slept with many women doesn't just learn about desire. He learns about patterns, about energy, about the rhythms of attention and emotion. The knowledge doesn't come from books, from advice, or from theory. It comes from experience, from living, from listening, from watching, from feeling the weight of each interaction and learning from it. See, this knowledge is subtle but powerful. He can tell when a woman is guarded, when she's longing for connection, when she's afraid to show vulnerability. He can read small cues, the tilt of her head, the tone of voice, the way someone shifts their weight. That awareness allows him to navigate intimacy with care, with attention, with understanding. It's not magic, it's life, etched into his awareness. And when he uses it responsibly, it can make women feel safe, seen, and truly valued. That's the kind of energy that draws people in, that makes connection feel effortless, and that teaches respect in the most profound ways. I remember a man I knew who had this kind of knowledge. He wasn't flashy. He didn't boast about past lovers. But when he was around women, it was clear. He understood them in ways that others couldn't. He knew when to speak and when to be silent, when to touch and when to hold back, when to push for connection and when to let it grow naturally. That awareness didn't come from charm. It came from experience, from the lessons of many women, many moments, many nights of learning what works and what hurts. That's the depth of knowledge a man earns when he's lived a full life with many relationships behind her. This knowledge also teaches empathy. A man who's experienced multiple women understands that everyone carries their own wounds, their own insecurities, their own desires. He learns to respect boundaries, to honor timing, to move with patience instead of impulse. He knows that what's inside matters more than what's on the surface. That's why women notice it immediately. The difference between someone who's just present and someone who's truly aware. Awareness like that comes with history, with mistakes, with learning the hard lessons that life has you. The knowledge of women isn't just about intimacy or desire. It's about understanding humanity. A man who's learned from many women sees beyond appearance or immediate attraction. He sees patterns of behavior, moments of insecurity, flashes of joy, and signs of fear. He recognizes the complexity of connection and he navigates it with intention. That's why experience teaches patience, why mistakes become wisdom, and why repeated interactions become insight. Yet this knowledge carries responsibility. Misused, it can manipulate. Misunderstood, it can hurt. A man with true understanding doesn't use it for control or selfish pleasure. He uses it to connect, to nurture, and to honor the depth of the people he encounters. And that's the difference. Experience can teach knowledge, but integrity teaches how to wield it. So knowledge of women is one of the most telling signs that a man has been with many women. It's subtle yet unmistakable. It's earned, not taught. It shows in the way he listens, the way he moves, the way he interacts. It's a quiet confidence, a deep awareness, and a rare skill that allows connection to happen naturally and meaningfully. When you encounter a man like that, you feel it. The presence, the understanding, the awareness that comes from experience, respect, and the hard-earned lessons of love, loss, and life itself. You ever meet a man who doesn't need anyone to validate him, who moves through life with his own energy and who stands firm even when the world pushes back? That's independence. And it's one of the clearest signs a man has been with many women. Independence isn't just about financial stability or being alone. It's about knowing yourself, knowing your worth, and moving through life without relying on someone else to fill the gaps in your soul. A man who's had experience with women understands that desire, attention, and connection are gifts, not necessities, and he doesn't chase them to feel complete. See, independence comes from living, from surviving, from loving and losing. He's been through moments where he gave everything and got little in return. He's been through nights of longing and days of reflection. He's felt the highs of attention and the lows of rejection. And through all that, he's learned that his value doesn't come from others' validation. It comes from himself. That's why he moves differently. He walks into a room without needing approval. He speaks without fear of judgment, and he loves without desperation. That energy is magnetic, and women notice it immediately because it's rare, it's real, and it's earned. Remember a brother from back in the day who carried this kind of energy. He didn't flaunt it, didn't brag about past conquests, and he didn't need anyone to tell him he was worthy. But when he was around women, they could feel it. Not just in how he looked, but in how he carried himself. Self-assured, patient, grounded. He knew his boundaries and he honored them. He knew what he wanted and he pursued it without losing his center. That kind of independence doesn't come from theory. It comes from living, from learning the hard lessons that life and relationships teach, and from refusing to be defined by anyone else's expectation. Independence also teaches respect. A man who's truly independent understands the value of space, his own and others. He doesn't cling. He doesn't manipulate. He doesn't demand constant reassurance. He gives women room to be themselves while maintaining his own center. That balance creates a deep sense of trust and attraction because it shows he's capable of love without needing to consume it. Experience teaches him that true connection happens naturally when both people are whole, not dependent. But independence isn't coldness. It's not detachment. It's a deep, quiet strength that allows him to navigate intimacy without losing himself. He can give fully because he's not seeking to complete himself in another. He can listen, be present, and love without expectation. And that's why women notice it. Because energy like that feels safe, it feels real, and it feels powerful. It's rare to meet a man who knows himself so well that he can navigate desire without desperation, attention without neediness, and love without losing his core. Independence also shows in how he responds to challenges. He doesn't crumble under pressure. He doesn't fold when things get difficult. He's faced rejection, heartbreak, mistakes, and lessons, and he's emerged stronger, more aware, and more grounded. That's the kind of energy that makes women trust him, admire him, and feel drawn to him. It's not about control, it's about presence. It's not about showing power, it's about holding yourself steady in a world full of chaos. So, independence is more than a trait. It's a signature of experience. It's a quiet force born from history, lessons, and self-awareness. A man who has slept with many women carries it in the way he stands, the way he speaks, and the way he loves. Deliberate, grounded, and aware. And when you encounter a man with that kind of independence, you feel it instantly. The calm, the strength, the rare energy of someone who knows himself, values himself, and moves through the world fully alive, fully aware, and fully in control of his own life. You ever meet a man who doesn't just talk the talk, but walks the walk every time? A man whose words, actions, and energy match, no matter who's watching or what's happening. That's consistency in behavior. And it's one of the clearest signs a man has been with many women. A man who slept with experience knows the power of trust, the weight of promises, and the importance of showing up fully. He's learned that charm, attraction, and attention are temporary if they're not backed up by real consistency. And that lesson shapes everything he does. See, consistency isn't just about reliability. It's about integrity, presence, and awareness. He doesn't change his demeanor based on the audience or the moment. He doesn't pretend to be something he's not to impress or to gain favor. He's learned that women, people, life, they notice when energy aligns with action, when promises are empty, when gestures carry weight. That awareness comes from experience. He's seen what happens when words and actions don't match. Heartbreak, regret, loss. And he's determined not to repeat that mistake. I remember a man I knew who carried this energy effortlessly. On the streets, in the clubs, in his relationships, he remained the same person. He treated everyone with respect, spoke honestly, and didn't bend himself to fit expectations that weren't aligned with his values. Women felt it. They could see the difference between someone who acted differently for attention and someone whose presence was rooted in authenticity. That consistency gave him credibility, trust, and undeniable attraction. Not just because of charm, but because he was steady, grounded, and real. Consistency also shows self-awareness. A man who's been with many women has learned patterns in himself, in others, and in relationships. He knows what works, what doesn't, and he has the discipline to act accordingly. That means he doesn't overreact to jealousy, insecurity, or drama. He doesn't change his energy for fleeting attention. He moves in rhythm with his values, and that steadiness becomes magnetic. Women notice it because it creates safety, trust, and a sense of stability that feels rare in a world full of uncertainty. But consistency isn't perfection. It's the ability to show up authentically, even when life gets messy. It's admitting mistakes, learning from them, and adjusting without losing integrity. A man who's experienced knows that unpredictability and character can destroy connection, and he's committed to being someone women can rely on emotionally, mentally, and physically. That's the difference between someone who's just attractive and someone whose presence holds weight, power, and respect. This kind of consistency also teaches patience. He understands that attraction isn't enough to sustain a connection. Attention alone won't build intimacy. The way he behaves over time, the way he respects boundaries, and the way he shows up consistently is what separates temporary attention from meaningful connection. That's the lesson experience teaches. That women notice actions over words, presence over promises, and integrity over charm. So consistency in behavior is a subtle but undeniable sign a man has been with many women. It's in the calm he carries, the patience he demonstrates, and the reliability he offers without asking for validation. It's not flashy, it's not loud, but it's powerful. Women feel it in the way he handles attention, desire, and connection. It's proof that he's lived, he's learned, and he's refined his energy to align with his character. And when you meet a man like that, you feel it immediately. Steady, authentic, grounded, and unshakable in his presence. A living testament to experience and growth. So now you see it, the signs, the energy, the lessons hidden in a man's presence, behavior, and history. These aren't just surface level traits. They're the echoes of experiences lived, mistakes made, lessons learned, and wisdom earned. A man who carries charm and conversation, his history, moves with rhythm, guards his emotions, understands women, stands independent, and acts with consistent behavior. He's someone who's walked through life, felt deeply, and emerged aware of himself and others. It's not about judgment. It's not about counting conquests or labeling. It's about understanding energy, understanding intention, and recognizing the depth of experience that shapes a person. Women notice these things because energy doesn't lie. Actions, patterns, timing, attention, they all speak louder than words. And when a man has navigated love, desire, intimacy, and heartbreak multiple times, he carries that awareness like a silent code, subtle but unmistakable to those paying attention. The lesson here is simple but profound. Life, love, and relationships aren't about surface appearances or temporary attraction. They're about awareness, respect, and understanding. They're about recognizing the signals, the patterns, and the energy that show who someone truly is beneath the charm and confidence. Experience teaches lessons the world can't always spell out. And those lessons reveal themselves in actions, rhythm, presence, and integrity. So when you meet a man, don't just look at the words he says or the confidence he carries. Feel the energy, watch the patterns, notice the rhythm, and trust your instincts. A man who's lived, loved, and learned leaves traces in his behavior. Traces that tell you what he values, how he moves, and what he's capable of in relationships. Recognizing these signs isn't about judgment, it's about awareness. It's about understanding the depth of someone's soul, the weight of their past, and the power of the lessons they carry forward. Life teaches us to read energy, to observe, and to trust what our eyes, ears, and hearts feel. The signs are there for those willing to notice. And when you see them, you'll understand the subtle power, wisdom, and awareness a man carries when he's been with many women. That's not arrogance. That's experience. That's growth. That's life.